There's been a heated debate over gun laws in the hallways of the U.S. Capitol following the latest school shooting in Nashville, Tennessee. Democrat Jamal Bowman was demanding answers about why guns are available to children when he was interrupted by Republican Thomas Massie, whose Christmas card featured a photograph of his family holding rifles. 6 people were killed in Monday's shooting at a private Christian school, including 3 children aged 9. Here's some of that exchange.
They're cowards. They're all cowards. They won't do anything to save the lives of our children at all. Cowards. Pressure them. Force them to respond to the question, why the hell won't you do anything to save America's children? And let them explain that all the way up until Election Day on 2024. Let them explain it all the way up to Election Day on 2024. They're f***ing cowards. They're gutless. They're not here. I'm talking about gun violence.
You know, there's never been a school shooting in a school that allows teachers to carry.
Carry guns? You think more guns lead to more death?
Would you co-sponsor
more guns lead to more death.
Would you co-sponsor
Look at the data. You're not looking at any data. You're carrying the water for the gun lobby.
No.
Look at the data. More guns lead to more deaths. States that have open carry laws have more deaths.
In every school
States that have open carry laws have more deaths. Are you listening to what I'm saying? Calm down. Children are dying.
I know. I've got
9-year-old children. Because the solution is not arming teachers.
That's worked in every school.
Have you ever worked in a school? Have you ever worked in a school? Have you ever worked in a school? It's a yes or no question.
Have you ever looked at the data?
You will not answer my question. Don't stop and talk to me. Okay, I'll bring it down a notch.
All right, folks.
Have you ever worked in a school?
I've got a bill to repeal the federal. I'm not talking to you
I worked in a school
anymore.
for 20 years.
You're just screaming.
I was a teen. I was screaming before you came and interrupted me.
Pretty emotive affair, perhaps justifiably so there. Well, for more on both these stories, let's cross live to Washington and speak to Arise US correspondent Eric Ham. Good to see you. Eric, let's start with that story that we just saw on our screens, a shouting match between a Democrat and a Republican in the halls of Congress over the stance of the Republicans on gun control after that shooting in Tennessee. Those 2 members of Congress clearly affected by that shooting of children, perhaps affected in different ways. I mean, how has that incident gone down?
Well, Charles, already we have seen more than 130 mass shootings in the United States this year. That number actually outpaces the number of mass shootings at this same point last year. And also, the United States now is on pace to actually break its own record of 690 mass shootings for the entire year. So what we are seeing here, Charles, is gun violence is clearly an epidemic in the United States. In fact, the Center for Disease Control has now made it a fact that firearms are the leading cause of death in American children. So clearly this is a problem. But with all of that, Charles, and with President Biden calling for a ban on assault weapons, the issue of gun violence and the issue and the gun debate in the United States is effectively dead on arrival. Congress has already made clear they will not address the issue. Republicans believe the answer is more, not less guns. And right now, we're not going to see any real debate, even after we know last year was the first time that effective gun legislation was enacted for the first time in 30 years. But still, while many believe the crux of the issue is assault weapons and the fact that the United States has more guns than people, and it's 26 times more violent than its peer nations, there is still nothing, if anything, that is going to be done, particularly given that Democrats in the Senate cannot pass the 60-vote threshold to get something done, and a Republican-controlled House of Representatives simply will not move on the issue.
Well, Eric, let's turn to the other America-related story, and that's the story that a court in Moscow has ruled that a Wall Street reporter will be held for 2 months on pre-trial detention. What do we know about the circumstances of his arrest? I understand he's been accused of espionage.
Yeah, that's right. We're told that he was attempting to attain classified documents and he was arrested by the Russia Secret Service, the FSB. The United States, through the White House, has already spoken out. We have a statement from the White House which says that the targeting of American citizens by the Russian government is unacceptable. We condemn the detention of Mr. Grekovich in the strongest terms. We also condemn the Russian government's continued targeting and repression of journalists and freedom of the press. Now, this is just another in a string of latest high-profile detentions by Russia. Of course, we know the WNBA player, Brittany Griner, which was detained and, of course, released. But now we know that the United States is actively working to continue to secure the release of Paul Whelan, who has been detained for some years now. And also now this becomes just another, particularly as the war in Ukraine heats up. And as we know that Russia has been looking for more support from and resources from many of its allies, including China.
So, I mean, Eric, it sounds like it's going to be a very high-level diplomatic problem between Russia and the US. Is that then the sense that legal cases in the end become political cases? You mentioned the Brittany Griner incidents. There was a swap between, her for a Russian convicted businessman. Might this end up in that way as well?
Well, we don't know, Charles. We do know that the State Department's Richard Carson's, he is in charge of actually attempting to try to negotiate the release of those detained in Russia. And so now his plate just got a little bit more packed. But of course, you're right. This is political. And of course, it makes it that much more difficult, particularly when we know the United States continues to provide material support to Ukraine in its ongoing war with Russia. And we also know that the ongoing battle in Bakhmut has continued to weigh heavily on Russian forces. And so perhaps this is an attempt by Russia to try to break the resolve of the United States. The United States, through the statement, has also stated that they believe that all U.S. citizens should leave Russia and should not be in Russia. And that includes journalists that are working there. We know the Wall Street Journal has condemned this act by Russia, and they said that their reporter is not guilty of the crimes that he has been charged, and they will be working very closely along with the U.S. government to try to secure his release. We also know that the State Department has been in contact with the Russian government, attempting to try to provide consular services to Mr. Grekovich while he is being detained as well.
Eric, thanks very much indeed. Eric Ham, Arise US correspondent, talking to me there from Washington State.